it's so weird that doing this, I always had to, explain myself like, oh, this is a podcast. This is what it does, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I want to say like 2 years ago, because I'm always looking for creative work. And it never dawned on me that podcasting was a job. It was just something that I did. And I look and people are looking for producers, and I'm just like, oh, that's right. I could probably get a job now.
That's hilarious.
Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast, as always, hosted by Chris. Woo! Coming in hot. Got a hot intro today. I'm choking now. It's too hot. I'm choking. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I would just like to first off thank everybody for the wonderful feedback I received for the last 2 episodes. Normally I don't get real, and those episodes are very real, and just things that I had to get off my chest because of the situations that is going on, and yeah, it's dumb that I got my views out in those episodes, so if you want to go listen to them, go right ahead. But, it came to a point where I said, you know what, I need to get back to work, back to doing what I'm doing. So, hence, a new episode with a wonderful guest. My guest today, his name is Hector Duran, and he can be seen on multiple projects. McFarlane USA is the movie that came out a couple years ago. But he's also on Space Force, the show Space Force, with Steve Carell. Created by Greg Daniels, Dave, and Steve, of course. Phenomenal cast. Ben Schwartz is in it. Lisa Kudrow, John Malkovich. Just wonderful cast, and I was so happy to chat with Hector. Hector's a cool guy. He's a cool guy with that's all I got to say, really. He's a good guy. But I'm done talking. Let's get into this episode, all right, people? So everybody sit back, relax, and Hector, take it away.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, Chris, there you go.
There we go. Literally, I changed nothing. I just closed the program, reopened it.
You know what? It's Skype. Let me tell you right now, because I've used Skype on a bunch of interviews this week.
Yeah.
And it's just the software. Sometimes it glitches.
And it's so funny because, I've used Skype to record, I would say 95% of my interviews in all of podcasting that I've done, and I never have problems with it. Like, I hear other people having problems with it. I just but I was telling a friend, it's so weird how Zoom has really taken off.
Yes.
And yet Skype was like the old man of the group, like, hey, now the time has come for Skype, and then for some reason it just didn't.
Well,
yeah.
Did you hear what's? Well, are we live, Chris?
Oh yeah, we're live.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So, have you heard what's happening with the Google Classroom? There's like a mini movement that's happening. I guess there was a video that went viral on TikTok of like these kids that said, "Hey, since we all hate to go to school, why don't we all give Google Classroom a 1-star review in the App Store? And any app that goes below 2 stars in the App Store, or I believe any app that goes below 1 star in the App Store, automatically gets removed."
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they some kid made a video, and then that video went viral, and now I think it has like 1.6 stars or something. So they're almost there.
All all because they didn't want to go to school.
Yeah, and they have like over a million ratings.
Dang,
It's funny.
Dang. And
Yeah,
it's so the situation being what it is right now, kids aren't in school, quote unquote.
man.
They're at home chilling. I'm sure when they do their Zoom calls or whatever, they're just, playing on phones and stuff like that. But even that, they're like, look, we got to stop school in general.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, kids don't like it. But you know what? That's the new generation. We're willing to band together on things and change what we want to get changed, which is actually pretty cool,
Yeah, I just wish it was used for other stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Same here.
Other than Google Classrooms.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's being used for something very impactful at the moment, and
Right.
I hope we see a positive outcome to this whole situation.
Whereabouts are you located?
I'm in West Covina, California. That's where I live.
Okay. And how's the situation been over there?
You know what? It's in West Covina. It's not that bad, actually. Closer to Los Angeles, it gets really bad. But there was a protest scheduled for here at one of our shopping centers, and actually, it's the same shopping center where my building is located. I'm a full-time mortgage loan officer, aside from actor. And they actually blocked off all the roads around my building, so I couldn't even get in. I had to walk like 2 blocks to get to my office. It was really crazy. But thankfully, it was a really small protest. There was no violence. They kind of did a great job at diffusing it before it even got out of hand. They started preparing like the night before. So the local police and law enforcement did a good job on like not letting anything get out of hand.
That's good. It's so crazy because a lot of the more peaceful protests I've seen have been during the day, and then at night it's just like, okay, that's a whole nother game or situation.
Yeah, but don't get it twisted. In downtown LA, it's getting crazy.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah, they've got police officers and protesters going against each other. Police officers with paintball guns and rubber bullets and all this stuff. So it's a little scary, but I think it's for a positive cause. So I'm not mad about it.
It's all for in the name of change and equality. So it's hard to, even though some people can argue it, it's hard to argue it. Just make sure you're safe. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen of people just walking home and getting injured. So
yeah. Actually, that was one of the main things I was worried about when I left the office, because that's when the protest was supposed to be starting, like around like a 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, something like that. I was like, hey man, we gotta leave together just in case we encounter anybody that wants problems,
Right.
So I just didn't leave on my own. But no, definitely good advice. Hey, and really quickly, Chris, I just wanted to say, man, I'm a fan of the podcast. Casting
thank
for Two.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, I know you guys are getting close to your 400th episode, right?
Oh yeah, 400 episodes and 7 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
Congrats, man. How do you feel?
Oh, I'm old. I feel old. That's how. No, I've been podcasting in general for 9 years now.
Wow, you're one of the OGs then.
It feels like I'm not. I don't know. It feels like no time has passed, but yeah, it's been definitely crazy.
Well, let me ask you, in the podcast game, is there like obviously there's the celebrities, I think like the Joe Rogan, right, that they have like #1 podcast and all that. But are there any like frowned upon names, like, oh, don't mention that person, they don't count as a podcaster?
Oh wow, that is a great question. Honestly, no one comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
No one. I've never. Me personally, I don't really listen to Joe Rogan. It's okay. He's just kind of not my cup of tea. But
I know he has like, I think one of the #1 podcasts, and he just signed that $100 million deal with Spotify, right?
Oh yeah. He's exclusively over there now. Yeah.
How crazy is that?
It's so weird that doing this, I always had to, explain myself like, oh, this is a podcast. This is what it does, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I want to say like 2 years ago, because I'm always looking for creative work. And it never dawned on me that podcasting was a job. It was just something that I did. And I look and people are looking for producers, and I'm just like, oh, that's right. I could probably get a job now.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, it boggles my mind.
Yeah, this whole technology revolution, man, it's creating
Yeah.
jobs out of the weirdest things. I mean, who would have thought 20 years ago that if you make funny videos for the internet, you can be a multimillionaire? And now we got YouTubers that are just making a ton of money. And thankfully, some of them are doing, making some good changes with that money. But you know what? It's a new career that's been created because of technology.
Right, yes. And it's, if you would have said, hey, 20 years ago, influencers are going to be a thing, I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like what's an influencer? Someone with a lot of followers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was actually thinking of making like funny videos online for the longest time before I got a few major roles in acting. I was kind of auditioning, and at the same time I was like, you know what, I should make some funny videos. And then one of my close friends gave me a really good piece of advice. He was like, look, when you're going into the audition room, do you want them to see you as, oh, he's that funny kid on YouTube, or he's that funny kid on Vine, or whatever it was at the time? Or do you want them to take you seriously as an actor and seriously consider you for an important role? And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to get typecasted as like, oh, he's just here because he has a lot of followers, not because he's talented.
Right. And I feel like, people like The Rock and Jack Black, that, they've reached a certain point in their career where they can do the goofy YouTube channel or something like that. So
yeah,
it could still be in the cards for you.
Well, look at Will Smith. I mean, he's
Smith,
killed it on YouTube. I mean, he made a splash. He got on YouTube, and then like immediately he gained massive traction, which is great. I'm happy for him. But this is the new age, This is just like another source of revenue for all of these celebrities. Now you got celebrities doing YouTube channels, podcasts. Now they're doing TikTok. I actually just started a TikTok also. I'm starting to make a couple funny videos.
Nice. And then how old were you when you were auditioning, when getting into that process?
Well, look, I started acting when I was about 9 years old. I think the first play I ever did was, I think it was like 7 Habits of Happy Kids or something like that. And then I really liked it. It was cool. It was in elementary school. And then one time we were walking through the mall with my family, and these talent scouts, the ones that, they try to sell you on like an acting class package where it's like a few $1,000s, and they put you in some acting classes, and then you get to audition for an agent. Well, we were walking through the mall, and they came up to us in our family, and there was like, I have 4 other siblings. So there's 5 of us, plus like 3 of my aunts were with us who are relatively young as well. And they're like, hey, all you guys should come and audition for this like open casting call that we're having. So we all went, we all auditioned, and I was the only one that got a call back. They're like, hey, we want you to join the program. So my dad actually knew that I liked and enjoyed acting, and he was like, if you want to do it, I'll pay for it. And at the time, it was $1,000, which was a lot of money back then. This was like 14, 15 years ago. And so we signed up. I took the 10 acting classes. My parents actually wrote me a commercial, like a really cool commercial. And finally, I got to do the showcase in front of 6 commercial agents. And after the showcase, I got a call from 5 of them, which is great. And then from there, I got an agent. I booked a few commercials. Then I got a theatrical agent. I did a few like really small parts on TV shows, and then kind of just kept auditioning for bigger stuff little by little. And thankfully, in 2012, I did this really big comedy pilot. There was like a lot of buzz around it. It was called Downwardly Mobile.
Oh, okay.
It was supposed to be Roseanne Barr's and John Goodman's comeback to sitcom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it was a really small cast. I think the cast was only like 8 people total. And I was one of the main cast members. I was a series regular on that. And so that, even though the show never got aired, obviously, Roseanne Barr, she's done a few controversial things, and
Right.
NBC decided not to pick it up. But even though it didn't air, that gave me a huge credit on my resume. And so that allowed me to then get McFarland USA, which I did in 2015. That's a Disney film based on a true story with Kevin Costner and Maria Bello. And that was actually a really fun experience because we got to go all the way to McFarland, meet the actual runners that the story is based off of. Spend a couple of weeks with them, get to know them. I got to stay at my character's house, which was super cool. and then just recently, I was able to work on Space Force, which is now #1 on Netflix. It's crazy.
And so, kind of backing up a little bit to McFarland USA, was it weird kind of portraying somebody that is still alive? Or were you just like, I need to get into this guy's head? Or was there a bit of, I'm going to respect him, but I'm going to do things, a little bit more how I would do, or something like that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And actually, a few people have asked me that. And I think the easiest way to describe this is it's probably easier to play somebody that's still alive because you get to hang out with them, talk to them, understand their mannerisms. I guess, if I was playing somebody that had passed away, it would be a little bit more difficult. And honestly, they did a really great job casting McFarland USA. The casting office really did good at matching the actors with the characters. So I even me as Hector, I'm a lot like the character I played, Johnny Samaniego. We have a lot of things in common. And it's funny because when he was younger, he had like curly hair, like really big curly hair back in the 80s. And his hair is naturally curly, but mine is not. So they had me grow out my hair for about a whole month. And then they permed it before we started filming.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, it was hilarious, man. But, it was really fun. And my girlfriend liked the perm, so she was like, oh, you look good with it. So I liked it,
But yet you're not rocking it to this day. Come on, man.
No, you know what? It's tough to get a perm. Look, I don't know if for anyone that's gotten a perm, your freaking head burns. It starts giving this weird smell, and then your hair stuck however you decide at that time for like the next 30 days. Yeah. So I actually had the filming process took about two months, and I had to get my hair permed twice while we were filming. And it was not fun at all. So I mean it's cool. I know a lot of the kids are perming their hair nowadays. The younger generation, I guess that's a new trend.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's actually becoming like it's coming back. Kids want the curly hair now, and plus it's less maintenance.
That's true. Yeah.
You can kind of just pick it up and then leave it like that all day. So I don't know. Might go back to it. We'll see.
There we go. And then you mentioned the show Space Force. How was working on that? I gotta assume that a lot of these shows, you hear, they're based around improv, and especially when it's Greg Daniels and Steve Carell and Ben Schwartz, that there's gonna be some improv involved. Was that kind of, when you first got the job, was that kind of intimidating, or is it something that you wanted to play around with?
Yeah. No, it's funny that you asked that because when I went to audition for this project, I saw the script, the sides that they had sent out, and I really liked it. Thought it was hilarious. Mm-hmm. And then I immediately looked up like who was producing it, who was the showrunner, and then I saw it was Greg Daniels, and I was like, man, I really have to get this. So the first audition that I went on, they had just the script, right? And then the second audition that I went on was to meet with the producers, which I met with Greg Daniels and I believe Howard Klein at the time, and the audition process was one part scripted and then 2 parts improv, which was really fun for me because I have a solid background in improv. I've done a lot of improv classes, and so. When I went into the audition, they didn't tell us that we were going to be doing any improv. I just went in there expecting to do the sides, and then we did the sides. And Greg Daniels was like, "Great, now I want you to do something completely made up. Here's Yeah, that's literally
Yeah.
what happened. He's like, great. And thankfully, they had already casted Obi, who plays my best friend on the show.
Mhm.
So the reoccurring joke on the show is like Obi and Julio. They're like the Dumb and Dumber of the cast, right?
Yeah.
And so Obi had already been casted, and he was actually there in the audition room. They were kind of doing like a mini chemistry read, and so they had me and Owen. That's his real name. They had me and Owen do like a couple of improv scenes. I think they were really funny, and I hope they felt the same way. But I got the part, which is great. So I'm just grateful to be working on it. But like you said, the set has a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the showrunners know that when it comes to comedy, sometimes what's written on paper doesn't always translate to funny on the screen. So they give the actors a lot of freedom. If you feel like something's not working, feel free to say it a different way. And there's this really funny line I have in episode 3. It's like a really short moment, but it was actually like the original line that was written wasn't working. I think we're trying on these funny uniforms, and I walk in and I say, why are all these lines pointing to my what was the original line? Why are all these lines pointing to my manhood? Something to that effect. I forgot what the original line was, but the joke just wasn't landing. Like the directors weren't laughing, the other cast members weren't laughing, and usually when a joke lands, the other cast members have to like hold their laugh, because it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you know what, just try something else, just try something, and I tried a few other variations, but the director, Paul King, I think it was. He's actually from Europe, and so he said weenus, which was hilarious because nobody. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it's funny because nobody in the U.S. says weenus, and that's what made it so funny. And so I said that, and that's the take that made it in.
Oh, weenus.
Yeah, so improv is highly encouraged on the set, which is great because Steve Carell is just hilarious, especially when he improvs. And thankfully, I was present, so I got to see like all the different variations that he did. And then after watching all 10 episodes of the show, I got to see all of the ones that made it in, which makes it even so much better because like he did that take 20 times,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned you watch the series. Is it easy for you when you're doing a project? Is it easy for you to watch yourself, or do you have the ability to just like remove yourself from the project entirely?
That's a tough question because look, I'll be honest. Sometimes it's difficult for me to watch myself, and like if I'm working on a project, I did this short. It was like an indie film that went to film festivals. I did this in 2017, and I had a couple of scenes in there that I was trying to play it emotionally, and I guess because we were on a low budget set and everything was so fast paced, it was really tough to bring what I needed to that scene. And so I wasn't satisfied with my performance. I mean, it wasn't a bad performance at all, but it was just something I didn't enjoy watching. Right. And when it comes to Space Force, though, I'm loving the whole show. I binged watched like all 10 episodes in like a 12-hour period. I watched like 7 of them. I fell asleep and then I woke up and watched like the remaining 3.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed watching Space Force. My part's not obviously as large as like Steve Carell or John Malkovich. It's relatively small compared to some of the major cast members, but the show overall is just absolutely hilarious, and I think it's being well received by audiences as well.
And it must be nice to have like I know with this podcast, this is pretty much my straightforward, kind of semi-serious, I should say. Except you said weenus, so now it's not serious at all. But then there's like that silly, goofy side where it's like I do just want to say weenus in a take because let's make people laugh, and I gotta believe, I gotta think that that's so much fun to have that serious side, and then let's have some fun. Let's joke around.
Yeah, you know what, I when I first started acting, I started training immediately in like serious theatrical acting, Meisner, Stanislavski techniques, and
Yeah.
and really getting into it. I tried method acting for a little bit, and so this was like my passion. This is what I wanted to do. Is like I want to be on screen, I want to be on the big screen, and win an Oscar. And then as it progressed, that's when I started doing a little bit more comedy classes, a lot of improv classes, and that's kind of where I found my footing in the industry, is kind of with comedy. The Roseanne Barr thing was hilarious. McFarlane USA, my character's pretty funny, and Space Force, I'm kind of like the butt of the joke all the time, but still, it's really funny. And just to tell you a little bit about my character in Space Force, I play Julio Diaz Jose. He's pretty much a first generation American. Obviously, English is his second language. But it's pretty funny because he's always wanted to become an astronaut, which is kind of challenging. But because English is his second language, it makes for a lot of comedy. It makes for a lot of like funny moments where the character misunderstands the direction, or like obviously things go right over his head. So it's pretty funny. For anybody that hasn't watched the show, you've got to go and binge watch it on Netflix. And I just want to clarify one thing. The first episode is really setting the foundation for the rest of the show. A lot of people, a lot of critics only watched like one or two episodes and then gave it like a tough rating, saying, "Oh, well, where's the comedy?" And and I think the comedy in the show is very, very subtle. I think intelligent people will understand the jokes. The jokes will land with people that are able to think about it a little bit more. And I think the critics will start growing onto the show in like season 2 or 3, because a lot of the jokes will start to make sense. And like I said, season 1 and especially the first few episodes are mainly just to set the foundation for the rest of the show. And you can kind of see that growing, in episodes like 8, 9, and 10, you see like relationships starting to be built between like Dr. Chan and Captain Ali. They're starting to talk a little bit more. That could lead to something. You see, General Naird, who is played by Steve Carell, and his wife go through a lot of like different experiences, and that could lead to something. So this first season, I feel like, is just the foundation for the rest of the show. And I'm glad audiences are loving it because it's got a really good audience score. But I think the critics should take a little bit of time and give the show the chance to show you where it can go, kind of like The Office. When The Office. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, when The Office came out, everyone was just kind of, "Oh, this is first. It's just like the British one," and
Yes, exactly.
Which I mean, they were kind of of course taking inspiration and a lot of cues from it. But then after you get the pilot out of the way, the foundation, it's like, okay, now we can play and have fun and give you Office Olympics and all those great episodes. So
100%. I'm glad you said it, because it's sometimes it's difficult to explain to people that when, especially with the Greg Daniels style show, he's setting up the show for like a lot of funny opportunities in the future. It's not like a sitcom where every episode starts and ends and none of them are connected. It's more like, I'm going to set up a bunch of different possible outcomes, and then whatever the audience is like, I'll play to that. Similar to The Office, the first season was kind of like the foundation. Some people liked it, a lot of critics didn't. But then once you got to season like 3, 4, or 5, people just started raving over it because it had all of these different places to go. So, I mean, I'm really excited to see, if and when it gets renewed for a season 2, how this thing's going to end. I don't know if you've gotten to the end of the season yet, but we end on a major cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Major cliffhanger. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's hilarious the way we end the show. It's completely unexpected. And I really want to know what happens first episode of season 2. Trust me. My character depends on it.
There we go. There. And so, being a fan of actors and the process and everything you guys go through. I'm curious if there's one thing I love on the podcast, it's a good horror story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you have any audition horror stories.
Oh my gosh. You know what? This is a really, really old story, but when I was really young. I was early in my career. I was still auditioning for commercials. I think I was maybe like 11 years old or something like that.
Okay. All right.
I auditioned for this Disney XD commercial, which is like Disney, but like the young, testosterone-driven male version of Disney.
Right. The extreme Disney watchers.
Exactly. This is like for your skateboarders, your bikers, and all your athletic kids that want to see this on Disney. So anyway, I auditioned for this Disney XD commercial, and it was a skateboarding commercial. And at the time, I was really heavy into skateboarding. Mm-hmm. And so I went in there, I delivered the lines. I absolutely bombed on the lines. And it was really bad. They had me do like this I brought my skateboard with me. They had me do a couple of tricks in the room. And then I bombed the lines and I left. And in the elevator on the way down, I remember crying, and my parents were like, "Why are you crying?" Oh. And I was like, I just really sucked. I was like, I was just really bad in that audition. I'm not going to get it. Anyways, the next day they called us. They're like, "You booked it."
Whoa.
Yeah, so it was like two extremes. It was really crazy because I was crying horribly that I didn't like it, and then the next day they're like, "You got it." And I think to this day they booked me because of my skateboarding skills.
There we go.
Not my acting skills.
Okay, he'll be in the background skating and all that, and then I don't know, somebody will do the voiceover. Extreme.
I still got a couple of lines, which was cool, but
okay,
yeah,
there we go.
That was funny.
Nice.
Yeah, that's got to be my my one audition horror story. Other than that, just a bunch of rejection. That's pretty much how it is in the industry.
Yeah. Hector, for the people at home who want to follow you online, keep informed with any up and coming projects, where can they do all that?
So you can find me on Instagram at Real Hector Duran. And Facebook is just Hector Duran. And that's pretty much all the social media I have. I'm not really too active on Twitter. I don't even remember my handle on Twitter. I don't even use it too much. But you can also find me on TikTok at Hector_Duran.
There we go. Hector, thank you so much for chatting with me. I appreciate the conversation, the nice comments about the show, and I want you to get home safe. Now I'm worried about you getting home safe.
No, man, I'll be all right. Thank you for having me, Chris. I'm happy that you guys are getting close to your 400th episode, and I'm excited to see what you guys do on that one.
Thank you. I'm going to take a nap when I hit that, so that's what I'm going to do.
All right, man. Well, it was great talking to you.
All right, have a good one.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.